Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, another in my series of what I call heavy thoughts. This is where I take a moment to discuss what has been on my mind lately. And what has been on my mind lately is, what does the future hold for full-length albums? Is there a future for full-length albums? What got me thinking of this is I've seen a number of people and YouTube videos and on the internet commenting about how the era of the full-length album is over, that bands should just be releasing singles or EPs. And of course, as an old school metalhead, hard rocker, with a guy with a massive record collection, my first reaction was, heck no, long live the full-length album. That's where it's at. That's what I grew up on. And to me, that's the best way to consume music, is in its intended form as a full-length album. But then I got thinking about it, and there was a guy, he has a channel called Spectre Sound Studios, I believe. And he did a video on why you shouldn't make full-length albums, why bands shouldn't make full-length albums. And he also did a counterpoint video, which was why bands should make a full-length. And after I sort of got off my rocking chair yelling at the kids in my yard about full-length albums are where it's at, I started to think and go, there might be something to this. Now, my generation, most of, or if not all of my viewers out there, I think you're going to agree with me that we love full-length records. It's what we grew up on. That's how we enjoy. We enjoy the whole package, the whole idea, the first song, the last song, the flow of a record, all that stuff. But there's been generations now that have grown up not really consuming music like that. They're consuming music online, whether that be through streaming or YouTube or when iTunes was popular. So for them, that experience of listening to an album from beginning to end and taking the whole thing in as one thing, I don't know if it's quite the same for them. And what got me thinking is that maybe with the way technology is now, and with things being so at your fingertips and so much information, and we're being so easily distracted by things, in some ways it might be more important for artists to release more frequently, instead of putting out one full-length album every 4 or 5 years. Because let's face it, that's about the rate that most metal and hard rock bands are putting out albums. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, but for instance, Judas Priest, it's between Redeemer of Souls and Firepower, it was 4 years. And for Iron Maiden, between Book of Souls and Senjutsu, it was 6 years. And that's a long time, And granted, Iron Maiden, they give you a double album and everything, and so it keeps you occupied for a while. But it got me thinking that, what if some of these artists, let's just take these legacy bands. Now, I understand them. They built their careers on full-length albums. But if you go back to before the full-length album era, which would be like maybe the late 60s to 70s, starting with the Beatles, really before that, full-length albums were just collections of singles. And that's kind of how people consumed music, was on 7-inch singles. And they would eventually put them together and put it out as an album. But that's how the early Beatles albums were. That's how the early Stones records were. Elvis, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, all those guys. They were all single-driven. And then they were eventually collected and put on albums. But it was really more about the singles. It wasn't until like Sgt. Pepper and the late 60s, and then definitely into the 70s, it was more about albums. So this isn't a completely new phenomenon of people just consuming individual songs. And I understand that a lot of the legacy acts, like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest I mentioned, this is how they came up through their careers, releasing full-length albums. So I don't think they should stop doing that. But what if a lot of these bands started, let's say they released a full-length album, and then maybe a year or so after that album is released, they start releasing a set of songs that are only going to be available online, streaming and YouTube and all that stuff. You know, let's say Iron Maiden came out, and instead of having a double album, they had a single album that came out. A year later, they start releasing extra songs, maybe from that session, or maybe even songs that they recorded specifically for online consumption, for streaming. When Iron Maiden was getting ready to release Senjutsu, they had that world premiere for Writing on the Wall. And I remember that was kind of exciting, sitting there waiting to hear that song. Imagine if the first Friday of every month for the next 10 months, you were going to get a new Iron Maiden song. And then maybe at the end of that 10 months, maybe they package it into some like a limited edition vinyl, a cassette release, make it available that you can buy it as a download if you want. But to me, it would keep people more engaged, because in this day and age of the internet and instant access to things and fast moving information, man, going 4, 5, 6 years between albums is a long time. I think most of it takes Iron Maiden 6 more years before they release another record. I mean, think about it. 6 years ago, man, that's a lot has happened in 6 years. And to think we're going to have to wait another 6 years. And back in the glory days, the 70s and 80s, bands used to release albums every year, sometimes 2 albums a year. Like I believe Saxon's Denim and Leather and Strong Arm Are the Law. And was it Denim and Leather that came out in the same year? I mean, that was a very common thing for bands to release 2 albums in a year, to have an album, and 6 months later a live album to come out. So I think if bands found a way to do something like this, it might keep the audience more engaged. I know it will keep me excited. And again, I still want my full-length albums. I still want them to do that. There's something very exciting about waiting for an album, getting it, and then hearing all the songs from beginning to end. But again, there's so much time between these records that I think it's something that in this day and age where it's so easy to do this. And the other thing is so some people would say the cost is too much to go into a studio and record stuff that's only going to be available on streaming. It's going to be given out piecemeal via online. But with the pandemic, I'm sure everybody's seen this, bands, different musicians getting together to cover a song. And they record the video then, little split screen thing. They're all playing in their music rooms or their living rooms or whatever. Now, they all recorded that on their own tracks. They sent it to somebody. Somebody took it then, probably did it just on their computer, put it together. And a lot of those really sound great. And would anybody complain if Iron Maiden or Metallica, Judas Priest, or any of the Megadeth, any of the bands said, hey, you know what? Yeah, we released this album, but we're recording some stuff just for fun. We're just recording it on our computers. It's not super, super hi-fi, but we've got some fun songs that we want to record. Some of them are a little different, maybe some cover songs, whatever, and we just want to put them out. So every, once a month or something, we're going to put out a new song that's going to pop up on streaming. That could be another thing. Maybe they don't tell you when it's going to happen. They say, all right, we're going to release a song a month, and you don't know when it's going to happen. Look at how much excitement was built with Iron Maiden, with the hints they were dropping with the Belshazzar's Feast, and before the Writing on the Wall video came out, it had people talking, it had people engaged, it had people waiting for the record to come out. And I just think that if artists did take advantage of this more, did do something in this way, I think it could be really interesting, a really fun way to keep people more engaged, and just an exciting way to embrace new technology and new ways that we consume music. Hey, I'm still going to be a guy that buys my vinyl. I know there's a lot of people out there that still love to buy their CDs, and we're going to still keep doing that. We're still going to love our records, but how about you could do both, like I said, so we don't have to sit here and wait another 5 years between every record. And I get it, it's different now. Bands got to tour longer and the economics and everything. They can't release an album a year. But Honestly, I think that they could find a way to do this, and I don't think the fans would really care if, go back and listen to some of these collaboration videos of musicians covering songs, and a lot of them, the sound quality is great on it, and I just think it would be awesome to have that sort of excitement of knowing that there's going to be a new Iron Maiden song for the next once a month for the next 10 months, or whoever your favorite artist is, that they're going to be dropping these songs out there. And a lot of the people in the rap and the pop world, in the electronic world, they're already doing this. They're releasing only EPs and singles and stuff like that. So they've embraced this because I think they realize that this is, maybe part of the future. There is a space. I believe that there's always going to be a space for physical media, but the internet, YouTube, streaming, this is a big part of music consumption. So why not find a way to embrace and utilize both worlds? All right, there you go. There's my heavy thoughts. Like I said, I'm certain that all my viewers out there, that you love your full-length albums. You certainly don't want that to go away. Neither do I. But let me know what you think about that thought. About, would it be exciting for you if your favorite artist was releasing a new song online, once a month, every other month, or something like that? Let me know what you think about that sort of model of not always doing a full-length record, releasing things more as singles or EPs. Let me know in the comments down below, and until we see you again, make sure you rock hard, ride free.